The day Eli Turner bought that old cabin, the air smelled of rain and pine. 25 cents was all it took, a single, dull coin he'd found at the bottom of his pocket. Folks in town laughed when they heard, "That place ain't worth the dirt it stands on," the saloon keeper said. But Eli didn't care. He wasn't looking for comfort. He was looking for quiet, a place where the ghosts of his past couldn't follow. The cabin sat alone at the edge of Deadwood Valley, surrounded by tall whispering trees. The boards were gray with age, the roof sagged, and the wind moaned through the cracks like a morning song. But to Eli, it was enough. After the war, after losing everything, his wife, his land, his will to keep fighting, a broken cabin suited a broken man just fine. That night, he lit a small fire and poured himself a cup of black coffee. The silence was thick, almost heavy. When the wind died down, he heard something strange, a soft, dragging sound beneath the floorboards. Like someone shifting slowly in their sleep. He froze, listening. Then it stopped. He laughed it off at first. Probably rats. The next morning, he cleaned the place, patched the roof, and tried not to think about it. But the noise came again that night. Louder this time, more deliberate. 3 days later, Eli found an old trapdoor under a rug near the fireplace. The metal ring was rusted, and the wood was darker there, like it had soaked up something long ago. He crouched beside it, running his fingers over the edge. Someone had nailed it shut. Eli leaned back and stared. He felt that same chill he'd known on the battlefield, the kind that crawls under your skin and whispers you're not alone. He wanted to leave it alone, but curiosity, that dangerous old thing, kept tugging at him. He tried to pry it open, but the nails held firm. After a while, he gave up, poured himself another cup of coffee, and sat by the fire, staring at that rug like it might move on its own. The next day, he went into town for supplies. Old Mrs. Cartwright, who ran the general store, raised an eyebrow when she heard where he was staying. "That cabin," she said, lowering her voice. "Boy, you best leave that place alone." "Why?" Eli asked. "Because that ain't no ordinary cabin," she whispered. "Belonged to the Granger family. Back before the war, their little girl disappeared there. Search parties came from miles around. Never found her. After that, no one stayed a night without hearing her crying under the floor." Eli forced a grin, pretending not to believe it. But when he walked back that evening, the road felt longer, the woods darker. Every step seemed to echo with a whisper, like a child calling softly from far away. That night, he couldn't sleep. The fire burned low, and the wind outside sounded like someone sighing. Around midnight, the dragging started again, slow, steady, right under his feet. His hands shook as he grabbed his lantern and went to the trapdoor. He aimed at the nails with his pocket knife until one came loose. Then another. His heart was pounding so loud he could barely hear the creak as he lifted the door. The air that came out was cold, damp, and smelled of earth and time. He held the lantern close. A small ladder led down into darkness. He hesitated, then started to climb. The space below was narrow and low, the dirt walls closing in around him. At the far end, something small gleamed, a tin box, half buried in the soil. He brushed the dirt off and opened it. Inside was a little wooden doll, hand-carved, with one eye missing. And beneath it, folded in a child's handwriting, was a letter. "Papa said he's going to hide me down here till it's safe. But I'm scared, it's dark and I can't breathe right. I hear Mama crying upstairs. Please come get me soon." Eli froze. The words blurred as his eyes filled. That tiny voice from the past hit him harder than any bullet ever had. He sat there for a long time, holding that note, realizing what the sounds were, not ghosts, not rats, just echoes of pain buried too deep for anyone to face. He climbed back up, placed the doll gently on the mantel, and covered the trapdoor again. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat watching the flames, hearing that faint weeping drift through the walls. At dawn, he walked into town and went straight to the sheriff's office. "There's something you need to see," he said quietly. By noon, the sheriff and 2 men were digging under the cabin. They found the small bones of a child wrapped in an old blanket. Everyone went silent. Mrs. Cartwright crossed herself. The sheriff just nodded slowly, eyes heavy. Eli helped bury her near the tree line, under a wild rose bush that had somehow bloomed early that spring. When they were done, he stood there a long while. Then he said softly, "You're home now, little one." That night, the cabin felt different. Still quiet, but peaceful. The dragging was gone. The air felt lighter, like someone had finally let go. Weeks passed, and folks started coming by, curious about the man who'd bought the haunted cabin and brought peace to its ghost. Some offered to buy it off him for real money this time. Eli just smiled. She's not for sale, he said. He fixed the roof, cleaned the walls, and built a small porch where he'd sit each evening watching the sunset. Sometimes he thought he heard laughter, faint, like a memory carried on the wind. It didn't scare him anymore. It comforted him. A year later, the wild roses grew thick around the grave, red and full as fire. The cabin, once gray and forgotten, stood proud again, not perfect but alive. Eli never left. He said that cabin had given him something no war, no land, no gold could, a reason to stay, and a peace he'd never known. When folks asked why he kept it, he'd smile and say, because sometimes the things we find in darkness are the ones that finally bring us light. And if you walk past that valley on a quiet night, you might still hear the faint sound of laughter near the roses, not sorrowful, not lost, just a little girl finally at peace in a cabin bought for 25 cents that no one dared to open.